If you think claiming benefits early is harmless, run the numbers again. If you were born after 1960, there is a combination of federal rules that can reduce your retirement to less than 76% of what you expected to receive. That is not dramatization. That is federal math. Today we are putting real numbers on this. FRA, COLA, IRMAA, and delayed retirement credits. And we are going to reconnect everything to the case many of you remember. Eleanor is 73 years old. Last month, she did the math. She had saved $280,000, her house was paid off, and she was exhausted after 38 years of work. So she retired. She filled out the paperwork. She signed everything. And 3 weeks later, her first Social Security check arrived, $239 less than she expected, every month, for the rest of her life. Eleanor didn't make a mistake. She didn't miss a deadline. She simply retired at 65 instead of 67. And for that one decision, the federal government will take back more than $57,960 from her over the next 20 years. Permanently, legally, and with no way to reverse it. In the next 13 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how this penalty works, who it hits hardest, and the 3 decisions that determine whether you end up like Eleanor or like the people who escaped this trap entirely. Let's start with something the government never explains before you sign the paperwork. It's called the full retirement age, or FRA. For anyone born after 1960, that age is 67. That is the age at which Social Security pays you 100% of your calculated benefit. Retire before 67, and you get less. Not temporarily. Not until you turn 67, permanently, for the rest of your life. Here is what that looks like in real numbers. If your full benefit at 67 would be $800 per month, and you retire at 62 instead, you lose 30%. That is $540 every single month. Gone. If you retire at 63, you lose 25%. That is $450 per month. At 64, you lose 20%, $360 per month. At 65, like Eleanor, you lose 13.3%. That is $239 per month. At 66, you lose 6.7%, $121 per month. Now let's apply that to Eleanor's life. Her $239 monthly reduction equals $2,868 every year. Over 20 years of retirement, assuming she lives to 93, which is entirely realistic for a woman her age, that is $57,360 taken from her, permanently, legally, because she signed a form at 65 that nobody fully explained to her. And here is the part that keeps financial planners up at night. These reductions are never recovered, not by inflation adjustments, not by COLA increases, not by working part-time after retirement. The moment you sign, the number is locked. But that is only the first penalty. There's a second one that most people only discover when Medicare sends them their first bill, and by then, the paperwork is already signed. Every January, Social Security announces a COLA, a cost of living adjustment. For 2026, that number is 2.5%. On a benefit of $1,800 per month, that means $45 more every month. The government sends out press releases. The news covers it. Everyone celebrates. Now let me show you what actually happens to that $45. The standard Medicare Part B premium in 2026 is $202.90 per month. That is an increase of $17.90 from 2025. And because Medicare Part B is automatically deducted from your Social Security check, that $17.90 comes directly out of your COLA increase before you ever see it. Your $45 raise just became $27. But it doesn't stop there. If your income in 2024 was above $109,000 as an individual, or $218,000 as a couple, you also pay something called IRMAA, the Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. That is an additional surcharge on your Medicare premium that can add $100, $200, even $300 or more per month depending on your income tier. For those people, the 2026 COLA does not just disappear. They end up paying more than before. For Eleanor, the math is even harder. Because she retired early, her base benefit is already reduced to $1,561 per month. The COLA adds $39, 2.5% on her reduced check. Medicare takes $17.90. Her real net increase for 2026, $21.10 per month. That is the true value of a COLA when you retire before your full retirement age. Now here's what nobody tells you before you retire early. There's a window, a biological window, that determines whether your retirement money actually buys you anything worth having. And for most Americans, that window starts closing at exactly 63. I'll show you the data in a moment. You may have heard her name before. Eleanor is what we call a recurring case study. She's 73 years old, worked 41 years, paid into Social Security her entire career, followed every rule. And 3 weeks after we first told her story, she was still fighting to keep her home because Social Security sent her a bill for $38,000 she didn't owe. Eleanor didn't retire early by choice. She retired at 65, thinking she was safe, and the system still came after her. Now imagine Eleanor had retired at 62 or 63. Not only would she be dealing with an unexpected $38,000 demand, she would also be doing it on a benefit already reduced by 25 to 30%, permanently. That is the compounding nightmare most people never see coming. Then there's Arthur, 68 years old. He did everything right too. Retired at 62, collected his benefit for 5 years without a single issue. Then Social Security discovered they had his birth date wrong, their mistake, not his. And they punished him with 4 consecutive months of zero income. No check, nothing. He had to borrow from his son and max out a credit card just to eat. Arthur's nightmare wasn't about retiring early, but if his base benefit had already been reduced by 30% on top of that, he wouldn't have had a credit card limit high enough to survive. And then there's Susan. Susan is the reason this video exists. She's 66. She applied for Social Security at 65 and immediately did what neither Eleanor nor Arthur did by default. She documented everything, followed up in writing, and requested a proactive adjustment. No surprise letters, no missing checks, no $38,000 bill. Susan is fine, not because she was lucky, because she understood one thing Eleanor and Arthur didn't. The system will not protect you. You have to protect yourself. Susan also waited 1 extra year before collecting. 1 year. That single decision made her monthly benefit $210 higher than it would have been at 65. Over 20 years of retirement, that patience is worth $50,400. She almost didn't wait. She is glad she did. The average American's window of active health, the ability to travel, to be physically present with grandchildren, to do the things retirement is supposed to be for, begins closing rapidly after 63. The goal is not to maximize a check you receive at 75. The goal is to have enough money while you are still healthy enough to use it. So what can you actually do, whether you haven't retired yet, or whether you're already collecting and think it's too late to change anything? There are 3 moves, and only one of them works if you've already filed. Stay with me. Move number 1. If you have not filed yet, calculate your break-even point before you make any decision. The break-even point is the age at which waiting to collect pays off more than collecting early. For most people, the break-even on waiting from 62 to 67 falls somewhere between age 78 and 80. If you're in good health and your family has a history of longevity, the math strongly favors waiting. If your health is poor or your savings cannot bridge the gap between now and 67, early collection may be your only realistic option. But go in knowing exactly what you are choosing and what it will cost you over time. Move number 2. If you filed for Social Security within the last 12 months, you can undo it. Almost no one knows this exists. It is called a withdrawal of application, and you file it using Form SSA 5221. You repay everything you have received, and Social Security treats your application as if it never happened. You restart from zero with a higher future benefit. This window closes at exactly 12 months from your filing date. If you are inside that window right now, this single piece of information could be worth tens of thousands of dollars to you over the rest of your retirement. Move number 3. If you are already locked in and past the 12-month window, there is still an option called voluntary suspension. If you are between 62 and 70 and currently collecting, you can ask Social Security to stop your payments. While your benefits are suspended, your future benefit grows by approximately 8% per year until you restart or reach age 70. It does not erase the early retirement penalty, but it reduces the long-term damage for those who have the financial ability to pause benefits temporarily. Now here's what makes all of this even more urgent, and this is something most people have not heard yet. According to the 2025 Social Security Trustees Report, the OASI Retirement Trust Fund is projected to run out of reserves by the end of 2032. That date was accelerated by legislation signed in July 2025 called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which reduced payroll tax revenues flowing into the fund. When the fund reaches insolvency in 2032, benefits get automatically cut by 23% for everyone, across the board, with no exceptions. Think about what that means for Eleanor. She is already receiving a benefit that is 13.3% smaller than it should be because she retired at 65. In 2032, that reduced benefit gets cut by another 23%. She will be receiving roughly 75 cents for every dollar she was originally owed. That is not a retirement. That is a financial emergency that will arrive whether she is prepared for it or not. Eleanor can't undo her decision, but you might still be able to change yours, or at least understand exactly what you are choosing before you make it. The government will never send you a letter explaining this penalty before you sign. That is not how this system works. Now you know. One question for the comments: how old are you planning to retire? Or how old were you when you did? I read every single one.